Sneaking around in here, Charles. Whatever are you looking for? I'm looking for hope.
I found myself rewatching Spider-Man 3 a lot recently. Both the editor's cut and the theatrical cut. I don't know what always draws me back to this film. Maybe it's the really cool Spider-Man black suit. Maybe it's Venom. Maybe it's the emotional storyline with Sandman. Maybe it's the idea that you can fail, you can fall down as you can, but you could still get up. Spider-Man 3 is a lot of things. I wouldn't say bad. I wouldn't say awful. I wouldn't say perfect, but I do think there is something to it. There is an artistry in how it depicts its version of addiction, how it depicts, Peter falling on his face, falling to his pride, falling to his ego. What's so fascinating about the arc of the Spider-Man trilogy is that it's about three friends. At the core of it, it's about three friends, Mary Jane, Harry Osborn, Peter Parker, and what they all mean to each other when they leave high school, when they go out into the world, how they interact with the world, and how the world interacts with them. I find Sam Raimi's take on this mythology, this character, our beloved Spider-Man, something fascinating, something interesting, something so deeply personal. There's hope at the end of Spider-Man 3. It doesn't feel like there's hope. Peter had gone through so much in that movie, through the highs of his addiction to the black suit, to his lows, to realizing what that addiction and power would cost him. There are so many swings, so many deeper things. The idea of forgiveness. Can you forgive someone who's wronged you? Can Peter forgive himself for having wronged so many? You know, not a lot of superhero movies take the big swing of having their lead totally obliterate their life in a way with his addiction to the suit. The addiction could be anything. The addiction to alcohol, the addiction to drugs. You name it, it's an addiction to something that gives you a temporary high, that makes you feel like you're on top of the world. Peter has that in spades, but then Peter loses it all and has to say goodbye to it. The scene when he goes to the church and just rips the suit off as Eddie stares dumbfoundedly below, it's probably one of my favorite scenes in superhero movies, let alone this trilogy. I find what Sam Raimi was able to accomplish is nothing short of astounding. Now, the funny thing is, if you ask Sam Raimi himself, Spider-Man 3 is a failure. It wasn't what he wanted. But as a kid, well, I was in high school. Okay, so then I'm going to say, as a kid watching that, I was amazed. I was awestruck. Now, I saw it in theaters twice, but again, as internet culture tends to do, you go, oh, well, the internet doesn't like it, and I want to be in on what everyone else likes. I want to follow the same trends. I want to be accepted. I don't want to go against the grain. As a kid, I don't know. As now, I still feel very self-conscious in terms of when I like something and everyone else hates it. It's a shitty feeling to feel like, hey, this thing is really cool, it means a lot to me, to someone go, that's stupid, that sucks. And I had enough of that happen in my youth, so I didn't ever want to repeat it. But now, I feel that's urge and that, wall less and less. So I can say that I really like Spider-Man 3. What does this have to do with that? Well, I don't know. I guess it's just to establish my relationship with the movie. It's something I've had the back and forth for a while. I liked it, I didn't like it, I liked it again, I didn't like it again. And watching it now for these last few years, I'm back into the camp of I firmly love this movie. I don't think I'd ever go back to I don't like this movie. Hope is what Spider-Man 3 brings in the end. Hope that things can get better. Hope that things can turn around, that even though you fall into your darkest pit, it could be okay. That's what I think Spider-Man stands for. That's what I think it's always stood for. grace in the face of failure. Marvel Spider-Man 2. Marvel Spider-Man 2 retraces a lot of the steps of Spider-Man 3. Maybe that's why I love Spider-Man 2 so much. It makes me feel the same feelings. It makes you go through the same emotions. Spider-Man 2 takes place after Spider-Man 1. Obviously, there's a 1 after the 2. There's a 2 after the 1. Let me back it up a little bit. What I love about Marvel Spider-Man 2 is it's all of us. And by all of us, I mean it's all of me. It's all the feelings I hold deep inside. It's all my failures. It's all of my inhibitions. It's all of the grace I fail to give myself. If you ask anyone I know, I'm pretty confident in them saying I'm a pretty nice person. But the person I'm not nice to is me. I'm not nice to me. I can be mean to me. I can be cruel to myself. I call myself every name under the sun and then berate myself for it. In Spider-Man 1, spoiler alert for Spider-Man 1, Aunt May dies, and Peter can't save her. In fact, Peter has to watch her die with the cure in his hand in order to save everyone else. He feels like he failed. In his mind, he did fail. In reality, there was no other option. Let that sink in. Peter had to watch his aunt die after everything with Uncle Ben, and he feels like he failed. In Spider-Man 2, the black suit. Again, like I said, it was attached to Spider-Man 3. Anyway, that sensation, instead of an addiction that's making him feel powerful, this makes him feel like he can save everyone. He can do everything. He can do what he failed to do in Spider-Man 1. There wouldn't have been an Aunt May death if he had this suit in Spider-Man 1. It wouldn't have happened. It couldn't have. It would have been impossible. But as the suit stays attached to him, as it holds on to him, he changes. He's not our Peter Parker anymore. He's not our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's something worse. He teams up with Miles Morales, the other Spider-Man, who has his own personal journey of growth and reflection. And I'll talk about that another time, because that deserves its whole other episode, because that is a journey full of pathos and emotions just as much as Peter's is. And I respect the game for giving that same care and attention to Miles. But I digress. Miles finds his way into Peter's heart, and he sees the core of what the symbiote grabbed onto, his failure and his lack of grace. Lack of grace that he could give to himself. I think that's what made me connect with the game so much. The lack of grace I give to myself, and my grieving, and my feelings of failure. Hell, I fell down yesterday, and I spent a good 3 hours feeling like I was the worst person on the planet. My good friend Jay Connolly once told me that I think the thing that happens to you, more how you respond to it. We can't let a moment like that throw your day off. Now we respond accordingly and appropriately. You're a human being that deserves grace of human beings. Falling down is a normal and important part of life. It's how we pick ourselves up and keep moving forward that makes us unique and special. Excuse me. He's absolutely right. But sometimes I don't allow myself to look at myself that way. You know, why I love comics, comic book movies, away from the merchandising, away from the annualizations, away from the cynic companies that just want to take money out of my pocket and put it in their pocket. The things that I learned from them is hope, is continuing, is grace, is not being afraid to dust myself up. What my good friend Jay says is just picking myself up and keep going. That's what makes us unique. That's what makes us special. It's the continuing search for hope. I think all these comic book properties symbolize that. For me, personally. To quote the great Charles Xavier, just because someone stumbles, loses their way, doesn't mean they're lost forever. I think I lost sight in telling that to myself. In the movie X-Men Days of Future Past, where that quote is from, Charles gets to talk to younger Charles. Charles that's life is in disarray. Charles that has everything taken from him gets to see an older Charles, a wiser Charles, who tells him that we need you to hope again. That your greatest power, your greatest instinct is your ability to hope, is your ability to feel, is your ability to love. Peter Parker, at the end of Spider-Man 3, his greatest ability is to forgive himself, to hope, to love again. That even though we fall so far, we can come back up and rise again. I think that's why I find Spider-Man 3 so fascinating. It's not the grandiose action scenes, even though they are a baller as fuck. It's not the special effects, even though they're baller as fuck. It's the quiet scenes. It's the scenes with Peter and Aunt May. It's the scenes with Peter and Harry. It's the scenes with Peter and MJ, where they dive in to themselves, to the human soul, to what makes us tick, to what makes me tick as a kid. Now, I think that's the most important thing. You look at these people, and people say that these movies, this comic universe can't be cinema. It can't change lives. It can't mean anything. Respectfully, I say they're wrong. I'm not saying everything is gonna change the world. I talked about that in a previous episode. But I think these things can touch a heart in their grandiose scale that I find other things don't move me the same way. Whether it's dancing in the air with Spider-Man, whether it's swinging through the rooftops of Hell's Kitchen with Daredevil, whether it's finding togetherness with the X-Men, whether it's finding hope with Batman, whether it's letting go of the repression with the Hulk, inner repression. These characters, this mythology, these mythologies have always stuck with me. Whether it's Spider-Man 3, Daredevil, Batman Begins, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men First Class, these conversations, this living mythology played out on a grand scale like the Greek gods before, means so much to me. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for listening. I hope you have a good day.
I believe in you, Peter. You're a good person. And I know you will find a way